welcome to a very special episode of
Our Favorites.
We have worked our way through Jared's 10th, 9th, 8th, and 7th.
Woo, we did it!
favorite movies of all time. So naturally, we're on his 5th.
See, you'd think it'd be a joke, but, you know, just for all your math skills,
Dickey
quote
math.
unquote, I wouldn't be surprised.
There's guy math, there's girl math, there's Dickey math.
It's not even on,
The man who once said, what was it? Once said 15 plus 16 is 42.
They say for Dickey math, it doesn't matter which one it is. You just have to have a religious text sitting nearby.
And usually it counts their adult.
Yes.
But yes, no, we are watching Jared's 6th favorite movie of all time. And Jared, I would love you to introduce that, but also introduce, guys, we have a very special guest here as well.
Hi, I'm Maggie.
Hello.
Yep, our dear friend Maggie, my dear friend Maggie personally, and he was here a couple episodes ago for Paris, Texas. Couldn't be in the room with us then when we were all snowed in.
That was
It was bad.
Yep, but now we're here, and I'm gonna say that. We're here, and we're happy and ready to go. For my number 6 pick.
If you need something to throw at him, there's this.
Why throw it sitting right next to me?
That's the funniest thing I've heard in a while. Because we were all thinking it. You know?
It's There'll Be Blood.
Woo!
Came out in 2007, directed by the great Paul Thomas Anderson, often called his magnum opus, one of the best films of that decade, and in my opinion of all time. I love it. I've seen it probably 5 or 6 times. I've seen it in different ways. I've seen it, just at home alone. I've seen it for classes.
You ever seen it in the theater?
Technically, we'll get to the story, but it's one of those where it's held in high regard by almost everybody out there, it seems to be, and people do love it. It's one of those popular film bro picks, and it's just one of those you start to doubt, is it as good as I remember, or maybe not that, maybe do I like it as much as I did when I first watched it, in high school, and then I rewatch it, I go, oh yeah, if anything, it gets better.
That's funny you mention that because, it is one of those movies that film bros would kind of attach themselves to, and it's also like you, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I've often wondered what's the fall off, if there is any, because I hadn't seen it in probably 4 or 5 years until just the rewatch, and no, it holds up pretty dang well on its own. It's a hard one to recommend to people because it's
You gotta be in the right mood.
You definitely have to be in the right mood because it's hard to recommend any movie to anyone that's would you like a 2-hour 45-minute deep serious character study on a psychopath? I personally would.
Which the
this
first
vile
20 minutes,
person.
there's no dialogue whatsoever.
Yes, it's a silent film
I think,
practically.
Which PTA said that's his favorite chunk of movie he's ever made.
Yeah.
And
Really?
I think he said if I could, I wish the whole movie was like that. But he said no one would ever let me make that.
Yeah.
But those opening 20 minutes where you got the Shining music, basically.
Oh yeah.
The high strings.
It's the most stressful thing in the world.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's used in other movies too. I think The Hurt Locker uses it too.
Oh yeah, they do.
But not as effectively.
Not nearly as effective.
For how effective the suspense in that movie can be, I think they only use the cue once or twice, but it's in a weird spot.
It's been a while since I've seen that.
It's been a while, but I remember hearing it, I'm like, is that There Will Be Blood? And then when I rewatched The Shining a couple years ago, I was like, oh, no, that's There Will Be Blood does it, but The Shining's the big one where it came from. Idiot.
So that's a orchestral kind of sting that they use a lot, but differently.
Or something. Or The Shining is the example I know it from because I don't know an older movie that uses it off the top of my head.
Gotcha.
But that's the big one too that I think of.
Every time I hear that sound in that setting, The Shining is
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you watch enough movies and are just older, you start to see correlations between movies. Where it's a lot of movies in this time take a lot from the past. We still do that all the time. Just you start to see those connections the older you get, and you realize, okay, there's kind of a limited pool of things, so it's not always coming up with something new. It's how can I use what we have in a way that's different, or at least engaging. That's the thing. Even PTA said Treasure of the Sierra Madre is like the biggest influence on this movie, or one of them. Like he'd watch it every night while making it or writing the script, something like that.
You ever seen it?
Treasure of the Sierra Madre?
I'm just messing with you.
It's been a while. I think it's been like a decade.
It probably has for me too. Have you guys seen Treasure of the Sierra Madre? It feels kind of like a prototype version of There Will Be Blood if you look at it from that angle. But it's a really good movie.
That's the one. The famous quote is, we ain't got no stinking badges. Where the bandits show up and you got Bogey going, if you're the police, where are your badges? Badges? We ain't got no badges. I want to show you any stinking badges. Which then UHF, the 80s Weird Al movie, make fun of that. It's like, okay, they're delivering animals to a guy who runs like an animal show. Goes, and we got badgers. Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers. So that's like the big quote from it. But you can see it's like, oh yeah, directly influenced by.
Yeah.
Still very different, but it's like, this is the vibe.
Greed crazed weirdo in the hills, basically.
Yep. And then you do get an Oscar winning Walter Houston. It's Walter Houston, right?
Yeah.
Doing his little little dance.
His like prospector guy. Yeah.
Oh, it has to be Walter Houston because John Huston directed it.
Yeah.
That's right. Imagine directing your father to an Oscar win.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Well, and he won Best Director, but it didn't win Picture.
Which is weird. Yeah,
it's happened before.
Yeah.
It was Hamlet that year. It was Olivier's Hamlet, which is fine.
To be fair, is a good movie.
Yeah, it is, but it's not Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
It's not Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
But that's the big.
They've seen a lot more.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Breadth of stuff than we have.
What do you mean? I know of Naruto and Doc McStuffins. That's the extent of my media literacy.
Is there a crossover in there?
Not at all. Those
Doc McNaruto.
Doc McNaruto. Yeah. Yeah, you'd be surprised what happens in that one.
But yes, so I first saw There Will Be Blood at the age of 17, and I must have been between my sophomore and junior years of high school. It was in the summer. My cousin owned a copy and let me borrow it because, the year is about 2011. Yes, it's 2011, and the movie is at that point 4 years old, but I'd heard about it, and I'm watching there, and I'm sitting there, and most of the movies going by are like, okay, and then you get to the ending, which I'm sure will come, and then that's when it would like cement it as, oh, yeah. But the older you get, the more you appreciate the rest of the movie, and then the ending is just the cherry on top that just ties it all together. Especially this time, I was like, it doesn't even feel that long to me anymore. And I'm like really liking all these smaller, quieter scenes because like the Derek fire scene is a big one.
That's I was gonna bring up the cinematography of this and
Robert Elswit,
yeah,
which he won for this.
In like that scene specifically.
God. And that's the only take they had because.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Burn it down, yeah.
Yeah, to burn it down, and it was like smoking. They ruined a shot for No Country for Old Men because the Coens were filming in Texas.
No.
Miles away, and they ruined a shot that day because the big fire was up in the sky.
That's
Plume
so
of smoke was
funny.
way in the distance.
It was like I thought I heard another story like because they were filming near each other, the Coens or whoever made sure they booked up an entire nearby hotel, so then no one from There Will Be Blood production could use. So it's just fun. It's funny how they're both Westerns in their own right, and they came out the same year. They're the two front runners for Best Picture. They both won an acting Oscar. It's like just have been tied together because they still come up in the same conversation these days, but they're not really anywhere near the same movie at all. And they are kind of two sides of the same coin because I have found, and I've done this little experiment where because I showed my brother and a friend, they both liked No Country for Old Men better than this. We watched them we might have even double featured them.
That's a really good question.
And it's like, I feel like more movie-minded people tend to like There Will Be Blood better. They like them both. But then because No Country for Old Men is more accessible to just more casual audience member, they liked that better. Both are great. Mm-hmm. I like, of course, There Will Be Blood better.
You're making me think about this as well.
They're so different as well. There's so many similarities, but like they're very different.
Yeah.
But that they've kind of been tied to each other. They'll be tied to each other for eternity.
Oh yeah.
Like No Country for Old Men will be like in the discussion for best Coen movies
For sure.
I mean, honestly, I also would put that up there with some of my favorite movies of all time. Even though
it's
it didn't make
great.
my list, but
It's a goodie. It's
Yeah,
hard to
but
turn off when you see it on TV.
it really is.
So I didn't want to have to bring this up. You accidentally watched that, didn't you?
What?
No Country for Old Men for this podcast.
Oh yeah, I did actually.
And the reason I bring it up, not to embarrass
No,
you,
no.
because they're tied to each other.
They are so in my head. They're so tied to each other. I was like, there will be blood. Of course, the conversation's gonna veer over to No Country, but it turns out not the case.
Yeah. And because I was checking in 2 weeks ago, I
Yeah.
was like, still good to meet up. He goes, yep. You remember the movies? Yeah, it was next week's movie.
Yeah.
There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men. And I go, okay, how do I say this? I'm thinking, like, how do I tell him? I don't want to be like, aha. Because it's like he's taking time out of his schedule to watch these. Like, well, the other one was Paris, Texas. Not No Country. And you're like, oh, well, I own that one. I go, yeah, it's all good. Just, it's funny. But here we are. Like, because this isn't the first time.
Definitely not.
I've had you watch both of them for something. Do you recall the other time?
The other one, oh shoot, it was for one of the Best Picture shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I used to do YouTube and would cover the Best Picture nominees. And for the 2007 video, I wanted my good friend Maggie here to be a guest star on it because he was doing YouTube at the time as well. And I was going to talk about those two movies. And I thought, oh, that'd be fun to have him on here. He watched these two movies and would have a guest, narration, because it was all voiceover. It wasn't actually filmed. So, yeah, he popped on there for There Will Be Blood and No Country, and it was fun. And there's still there's something you brought up in No Country that I still stick by, and it's spoilers, of course. And we've talked about this on the podcast, too, didn't we? Was that your favorite, Cohen?
Probably.
How the whole movie is about showing or being in the place where deaths happen. And then for some reason we fade out before seeing Brolin.
Oh,
and I remember saying, like, I get why they did that, but I don't think it matches. That's my personal opinion. I'm sure if one of them was sitting here, they'd make us all feel like an idiot because they're very successful and smart. But it is kind of one of those, like, yeah, why do they do that? Like, everything else has just been bluntly showed to us, and the fade-out's weird, and if it just cut to Tommy Lee getting there right after, that works better. Why did we... And I know it's one part, but I remember thinking, like, it's such a pivotal...
We talked about that edit for a long time.
It's such a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just brought that, and here we are talking about that instead of There Will Be Blood. But I had to bring that in as, like, they're just so closely connected to each other, just in history. Yeah, but we saw this, There Will Be Blood, together.
We did.
For a class.
We did indeed.
Bad. You should tell. I've been doing a lot of talking the last 10 minutes or so.
So it was in the same class that I met Jared at, and for the final film that we were going to be watching, we basically had to do a class-wide debate to determine what the last picture was going to be, and it was a close race between There Will Be Blood and funny enough, we mentioned earlier Transformers 4. Transformers 4.
That's a tough decision.
Age of Extinction.
That's a really tough decision.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is longer than There Will Be Blood.
I think
to
it
be
is.
fair, Age of Extinction has dinosaurs.
It does have dinosaurs. However,
there's technically dinosaurs in There Will Be Blood too.
Fossil fuels.
Exactly.
However, a pretentious 19-year-old like myself at the time would be inclined to call There Will Be Blood an epic on the scale of perhaps The Godfather or exceeding, and that got a lot of film bros behind me. So
Well, what happened is, and the way it worked was, we had like a piece of paper, and he said, write 3 movies you'd like to see for this class, because he had all the movies. He had all the movies scheduled, but there were 2 slots: a class comedy and a class just regular non-comedy pick.
Yeah.
And he just said, write 3 movies down. So I thought, oh, is this going to be like, this is kind of weird. He wrote every single movie on the board, every single movie, and it's supposed to be. See, it should have been 1 because there's like 30 of us in there.
Yeah. How the hell
He wrote 9. Well, not 90 because they're gonna be duplicates. But the way he did it was, if there were duplicates, he'd put a thing next to it, and he said, "Okay, it was supposed to take 15 minutes. It took the whole 70-minute
Of course,
class.
if you're gonna whittle down 30 movies, it's gonna take.
No, it was like 70 movies.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, just look at our podcast between the three of us.
Yeah.
We're ranking 27 Pixar movies.
Yeah, just it became this whole. And what happened was, like I think you put down There Will Be Blood. I think
did.
that was you.
I definitely did.
And I remember, like, I pushed mine for like 5 seconds because I realized, oh, no one's jumping on these. I'm gonna jump on There Will Be Blood because I want to watch that again. At this point, about 20. I hadn't seen it in like a year or two. I was
double checking. You could have written down any movie.
Any movie.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so it's getting whittled down, and we're slowly getting to There Will Be Blood and Age of Extinction. And because this is a film communication class, so anyone can take it. You don't need prerequisites. So there's a lot of people in there that are not film people. They need this for credits. Yeah. And I remember all of us film people realizing that we don't want to come into to the next class period and watch Age of Extinction. So we like all banded together to make sure it won.
This one beautiful act of harmony.
It's the last time it happened.
I remember the person trying to champion Transformers, and
I would love to know their argument.
They were not very, very happy about it. Their argument was stupid. It was like, I want to watch it. That was it.
Is it the same?
That's pretty hard to argue against, though. I mean,
was it the one girl?
Yeah.
What movie was it that, like, at the end she made a comment to the class and we both did one of these?
Oh yeah, there was one of them. We had a lot of those though.
I know there was the one girl. If you can remember, we sat like in the back left. She was in the middle, and she would like raise her hand every classmate and say one dumb thing. And there, what was it? This one? She's like, well, I don't know how I feel about this, and we're like, what are you talking about?
Oh, she got mad at me because we had to do I realize we're just talking about this class now, but she got mad at me because we had to do like a first person to raise her hand gets the question kind of thing, right? And I knew what drug Owen Wilson was taking in the Royal Tenenbaums. And I raised my hand super quick, and that same girl was like, well, you knew that. And I was like, I watched the movie.
Good freaking movie!
I watched the movie.
Unlike you.
I just remember, like, she'd say something stupid. It's like, how do you exist? Do you think about any of this?
How do you exist?
Like, I always heard
Jared,
people act like
conversation
this.
we gotta have.
Yeah.
Oh, I know how she exists.
Oh, you do, huh?
But it was more of like I've heard about people like this. I thought it was a joke, but apparently they're real.
No, very real. Very real.
It's kind of the equivalent of I mentioned on the podcast before the girl when we went to Western. The one that wanted to know where the briefcase of money in Shallow Grave came from, and it's like, that's not important. All that's important is he ripped off someone in some job, and now he has this money.
Yeah.
But how do you get the money? That's not important. But I want to know. And we're sitting there going, it's called, we have to spell everything out, every single thing. It's like that, but that's not the focus.
I'm about to do this. Is it like the type of person that says Rogue One is a necessary movie in Star Wars canon because we have to know why
there's an open
why
vent?
there's an exhaust vent?
Yup, it's kind of like that. It's this over explanation of like there can be no plot holes in anything anymore. Okay, and that's what modern cinema and blockbusters have done is they try to patch up every little thing to the point where they're not telling a story, they're not giving us good characters. All they want to do is make sure everything is airtight, and it comes at the expense of making a movie. Now it's just checking off a list of that.
I don't remember what modern... now we're really going down the rabbit hole. I don't know what modern comic said this, or it might have been an actor or a director, or someone. Somebody somewhere said this, and I can't take credit for it, but it was great. Like, nowadays, it feels like they're more making... it wasn't content, but it was something like... Something similar to the word content. It was just commerce, or like something like that. Instead of like actual just telling a story. So yeah, that's... Yeah.
It's a product.
Because now it's if you have a piece of your story that doesn't quite make sense, but it doesn't matter. Now they make sure they explain it or patch it up, and they take 5 minutes out of their movie to make sure you know, because they don't want a bunch of people online saying, "Oh, Beauty and the Beast is about Stockholm syndrome." That's bad. It's like, I think it's a little more complicated than that. I also don't think that's quite what it is. I'm not an expert. Don't quote me.
It's fun to.
But
it's also fun to. It's for like some of those major movies to poke fun. It's allowed. Like, I'm sorry. You can also poke fun at There Will Be Blood. You can say, oh, just a crazy oil tycoon guy. Like, it's like you can whittle anything down to anything.
I was gonna say, reveal my age here. I graduated from college in 2010, and from when this come out, 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from 2008, when my roommates and a couple of my friends saw it, to when we all dispersed in 2010, the drainage. Or I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Classic.
That was the joke.
I've abandoned my child.
Never that.
No,
never that.
Oh,
The bastard in the basket thing, which is, I think, why I got so triggered when you said that, and I would submit to you, watch that scene and tell me that is not a hurtful word.
Oh, yeah.
That's a hurtful word in what,
word.
like 1915 or whenever the scene takes place.
Yeah.
But it's like now,
But-
it doesn't mean anything anymore to people.
Be that as it may.
But I get where it comes from, because that's a hard scene to
harsh.
watch.
Yeah.
It's harsh.
And then he's got that like look in his eyes where he's all
Yeah.
like that, and
What
it's
is it like, Jared?
Yeah, he's got the curly alcohol lips. Yeah.
and he's just he's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh,
He just continues being worse and worse. There is no getting better.
yeah. And then I think everyone points to the scene when he's talking to his brother, where he's like, I look at people and I don't like what I see or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
that's the whole I have a competition to me speech. It's like, it's really short and it's really quiet and it's just the perfect thing of like, oh, this isn't just some like greedy oil guy. This is like this vile person who just does not like people.
Yep.
At all. What is it? I see the worst in people.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand seeing someone have more than me, because it's like that competition is what drives him, because it's like he puts himself above people to the point where he just cannot stand not having more. And it's like, oh, this isn't just a money thing. This is a competitiveness.
Yeah. So it's like the money is almost like secondary to the idea of crushing everyone else. And that definitely gets proven throughout the film because he gets deals and stuff, but he just keeps getting offended on his not really real son.
that's
everything
right.
with
You
his
see
son,
that.
his quote unquote son.
What is it?
Yeah.
You see that? See my son over there.
Yeah. His
You
son.
don't tell me how to run my family.
His son that he keeps using like a bargaining chip for
Yep.
towns. Yeah. It's
You don't tell
messed
me
up.
how to run my family. I can't remember. He said something in that. I think I wrote it down, but someone talk while I looked this up. I remember.
Day-Lewis won.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
There's no way that he would.
All right, that's I'm like I'm pretty sure he
Isn't
did,
there like a
right?
stat somewhere or something that like he's won nearly every
won,
year
like-
he's been in a movie?
I don't think that, but it's more of that role specifically. I know is like one of the most winning roles, or at least like he like swept the like every major award with that, which is a rare thing.
I mean, he put his whole Daniel Day-Lewis into this, man. He literally it was.
Watching this again made me want to watch more Daniel Day-Lewis movies, so I have over the past couple weeks or so. I realized I don't know what that man actually sounds like. So like
You do though. Phantom Thread, that's his normal
that's his
voice.
normal voice.
Yep.
Okay.
And he
Good.
still is his own character.
Because there's Lincoln. He sounds completely different in Lincoln
Lincoln's-
than in this. And then there's Gangs of New York, which is sort of kind of like this.
It's close, but not exactly.
It's like when he yells, you can hear.
He's got that.
What's his
deep
name?
tone.
What's his
Bill
name?
the Butcher?
What?
You're saying Bill the Butcher,
No,
or you're saying
yeah,
Daniel
Bill
Plainview?
Butcher in Gangs of New York, but in
Daniel
this-
Plainview.
Daniel
yeah.
Plainview. So when he yells in the first battle scene when he kills Liam Neeson, he sounds like his character in There Will Be Blood.
That's just his yell too. Like
Well-
it's just it's hard to kind of yell different.
Yeah, how do you inflect yelling, I guess?
Because you
go,
got
oh, you can go ha.
He does kind of bolt at the same time, though.
and then you watch.
Like he's just such a command.
But then you watch A Room with a View, and he's like the most priggish person. Where he's like, oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. He's like
He's very up
suave.
here. And then like that same year, was it My Beautiful Laundrette came out? It was Ebert who said he like walked across the street to a different theater and saw that movie. After watching A Room with a View, he's like, how is this the same person?
Yeah.
and he like did not campaign for A Room with a View at all, and he would have gotten nominated, but he did not campaign because he didn't care. That's just
That's crazy.
So I found the thing I was looking for. It's nothing big. It just made me laugh really hard.
I just want
and
everyone to know that was a 20-minute cut right there for him to find that.
Very cool.
And it's he's
Very
talking.
cool.
It's Tilford is the guy that they try to make the deal with, and it falls through because he basically said, because it's like the whole like, well, you could be a millionaire, you could retire. He's like, and what would I do? And he goes, you could take care of your son, and then that's the whole like, one night I'm going to come into your house while you're sleeping, I'll go into your bedroom, and I'm going to cut your throat. I was like, gee,
Oh my god.
don't tell me how to run my family. But this scene, it's like he's telling him like, you see him, I see him. You don't tell me how to raise my family. And the part that gets me is like, I'm taking care of him now. Excellent. You look like a fool, don't you, Tilford? Yeah, and he's like, yes, yes, you do, because he's drunk.
Yeah. That's
you
a
do.
North restaurant, isn't it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
look like a fool.
That's true too. Throughout the movie, he continues to get more and more drunk.
Oh yeah, he drinks
Yeah.
a lot.
That was the other joke. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You once said, I think it was after we watched it in the class, because we watched it in a theater, at the school.
That's actually kind of how I watched
So it's like
it
it's
for
just
when
like
I
a
was-
projector, like the one you can see. It's like the more better than that, but like
Yeah.
bigger one, school auditorium type thing, and that's how we watched it. So I haven't seen it in a theater, but in a theater type setting. But after we watched it, Maggie said to me, "You got to turn subtitles on during the baptism scene," which that's another big scene.
Yeah.
Like you already quote the "abandon my child" thing, but. What is he saying? It's
Dude,
like
he
he's
spits
slapping
words.
him,
Oh,
and
it's
he's like,
insane.
"Where is your God? Where is your God?" He's like, "Where is he? Where is he? Can you hear him?" Or something like that. And it's like he's yelling back.
During
It's
the
like-
baptism scene?
In
Yeah.
the mud. Right?
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, it's remember it's the "I've abandoned my child," and then he starts slapping him,
Oh.
and then he's like talking.
Yeah.
They're talking at the same time, and
He's
like,
right,
"Where's your
yeah.
God? Is he here? Is he here?" He's like, and he was like, "Get out, get out, get out! Is he here?" And then just like, "Do you accept?" "Yes, I do. Yes,
I do. That's the perfect delivery for that. It's like being forced to say yes because your mom told you to or something. Yeah.
Find it again.
Yes, I do.
I also like after the first scene where he like casts out that demon and he just goes, "Damn hell of a show." He says it so matter of fact. Yeah. And he's got like that limp he walks because he hurt his leg in the beginning, which
Dude,
to
that
fall and then he like,
fall-
oh, that's right. Like the only word he says in the first 20 minutes is when he like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
and his leg is like lodged right there, and he just goes, "No,"
Yeah.
and ugh.
It's a
And that
nasty
shot
scene.
of him just down in like the basement with just the light up, like it's devastating.
Yeah, it's
I love
spooky
it.
stuff.
Just
Like watching all the like crewmen on the oil rigs too getting like killed left and right just because of mishaps.
Which
and
still
people
brings
messing
up a point, not to cut you off,
Yeah.
which brings up another point I've said for years, and I know why now. I've talked about you. It's like, I'm still confused why this is rated R, because most of the violence we don't even see, even if it's
just
implied.
intense.
And that's what Jake has said. Like, well, it's intense. I go, I feel like if this comes out today, it gets a PG-13. But they pushed for an R when the movie came
I'm
out.
trying to think of all the
'Cause
words.
there's
And
not-
is
there's
there any
It's
cussing?
not a whole. There is
No,
cussing.
I mean, well,
There's no F-bombs. That's what gets you an R.
There might be
no other
one,
words.
which
I
would be a PG-13 thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
but
still is PG-13.
where is it? I don't remember hearing it in the movie at all.
I just remember him say, okay. I'm going to be fair with you. I might be confusing him with Gangs of New York. He swears a bit in Gangs of New York.
he does.
So I feel like there is one, maybe in the mud scene. I don't know.
That's
I just-
maybe possible.
I just remember thinking, like, there's not that much cussing. I don't remember any F-bombs. The violence that there is, like, you don't even, like, the bowling pin to the head, you don't see him actually hit him.
Yeah.
But
See
still,
the
like,
blood.
but you see blood in PG-13 movies all the time. And it's not like it shows his head wide open. He's just
Yeah.
laying there with the blood pooling. And then, like, the guy getting hit by the drill when he's
Oh,
down there.
yeah.
Like, one, it is but you
had
don't even see,
forgotten about that
because the
immediately
bottom of
after
the
I saw
frame is here and he gets hit and it's real quick and all you see is a little spray of blood.
Yeah.
Like, even that's not, and it's like, I remember thinking the whole time, like, this would not be R today, but then I thought I read they pushed for an R.
I think it just gives, especially for like a movie of like this caliber, it just gives it a little more of an oomph, even though it doesn't actually need it. But like you say, you walk into.
So you're saying people will go see movies that are rated R because they're rated R?
Yes.
For the type of movie it is,
100%.
I would say.
Okay.
Like, you won't make as much money because PG-13 tends to make more money than R.
But you'll still have that, like Deadpool. If Deadpool was rated PG-13, it's obviously
it's a little different. That wouldn't work.
Yeah, I guess that wouldn't work. But just
work.
like the heavy R rated, just bring like people like to see violence.
Are you implying that if this was rated PG-13, people wouldn't take it as seriously?
Yes.
And it wouldn't be...
At the time when it came out, at least.
Yeah.
I bet you they pushed because they're already not going to make a ton of money. Not saying it didn't make money, just
It's not that
it's
kind of
going to be a
movie.
more niche audience anyway. So pushing for that R brings in a couple people that otherwise would not buy. It's like, oh, it's only PG-13, but then people who don't know better be like, oh, okay.
To me, it makes sense to have it be an R rating, not for anything like super explicit, but just for like the general atmosphere of that movie. Just like I would hate if I was a kid having to watch that movie, you know.
Well, that's true. You think,
Well,
what?
yeah.
What teenager's
Some
like, oh boy, let's go watch There Will Be Blood.
Some
Jared,
13-year-old's
that
like,
was like you.
my parents are finally letting me go to a movie by myself with my little girlfriend right here, and we're gonna watch. Oh,
It's the
You
Simpsons.
think it's 10 minutes in there, it's like, what the hell am I watching?
It's the Simpsons joke of, come on, Bart, we're sneaking into an R-rated movie, and Bart's like waiting for Homer to pick him up. He's like, I can't. They're like, okay, Barton Fink. They're going to see Barton Fink. Coen Brothers. That's their whole, oh, we're getting into an R-rated movie. It's Barton Fink.
The most devastating
Which
R-rated movie.
is a great,
It's a great movie.
It's like, the only reason it's R is language. That's
Yeah.
it. It's just funny. Barton Fink. Barton Fink.
Oh man.
I just lost it. Crap. There's another line he delivers that gets me every time. And it's not supposed to be funny, but it's such a great reaction. It's the oil derrick's on fire, and Kieran Hines is next to him making this intense face, because everyone's looking at Daniel because he's bent over, he's got the oil all over him, but then next to is Kieran making like this sinister face, which Kieran Hines is always great.
is that?
He's the
bulky guy.
Yeah, he's the guy who's with him for most of the movie.
And the guy
Fletcher.
and the guy that takes the kid off to.
Oh yeah,
Francisco.
he does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which you know him from Belfast. He's the grandfather.
That's why he looks so familiar.
And Silence. He's the
Oh
priest.
my
He's the priest at the beginning.
Oh my god.
He's in a million
He's in a
things.
ton of
I
stuff,
was
yeah.
I was looking at Letterboxd. Like, what the hell do I know this guy?
You just saved Jake so much anxiety.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
so
man.
it's a wave of like, that's what it was.
So he
That beats out that impact anxiety I was telling you about. Let me tell you what. Holy crap.
so they're looking at the fire and they're both happy because they realize we've struck gold. And he says, "Is HW okay?" No, he isn't. Just that way he says it, because it's like, oh. It's not supposed to be fun, but I laugh when it's really good acting too,
Yeah.
and people look at me weird. It's like, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I'm feeling joy because I'm watching something really good. And I've talked to people who are like that too. It's like, when I say movie's fun, it usually means it's good. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a fun movie.
I won't say this is fun.
Yeah.
I have fun. I love it. It's 2.5 hours of just this building tension and underlying dread that just culminates in
It's fantastic.
the bowling
but-
alley scene. It's just like the perfect way to end this. And of course, that whole speech, the whole scene, it's like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
The
and it's
bowling alley
just-
scene, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the whole thing is just so good. Like he's literally sleeping in the gutter.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I didn't even think about that,
I
yeah.
didn't even.
He is, and he has
You're
like,
right.
and he's like, he has the steaks that he's eating. I'm thinking like, those are gonna be like cold.
Oh, definitely.
And he's got the straight vodka, and he's just, I think it's vodka, right? I thought
Probably,
they said
it's
it, but
flavor.
and the way he eats it when
Probably
he's talking
whiskey.
to you, he's just, and then the whole like, say it like you mean it. I am a false prophet. God is a superstition. You could sit down again. That whole thing where he's just, and then there's the whole, yes he does. Yes he does. And then you
oh
get
my
to the whole,
gosh.
because it's all about like he's out of money, So he's trying to get money. Say, hey, you can buy Bandy's land, and he's trying to tell him, oh, all that oil underneath, I already got it, because drainage. And then that whole just the whole it's just I love we could talk for an hour on that one scene, but I always love when he throws him, and then it's just he's doing you think you're so good dancing, you're superstition.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I am the third revelation. I am who the Lord has chosen. I am the third revelation. I am the third. And he's walking over in here, and he's like, where there's Daniel?
Yeah, he
throwing bowling pins at him. Jake, what were you saying? Why is it every time Paul Dano's in a movie we watch, he gets the crap beat
every
out of
movie
him?
we watch with Paul Dano, he gets the shit kicked out of him. Looper, Prisoners.
Yeah, that's what we've had.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he does get the tar beaten out of him in all these
he's
movies.
Just 12 Years a Slave. We haven't covered it here, but he gets beat up. He just what does he do? He gets beat with the whip, and he's just because he's so good at screaming.
He is great at screaming.
He's a good screamer.
So that scene, where he where's our money, Dan? And he's shoving his face. I'm gonna put you on the ground. Bury you on the ground.
It's so nasty. That whole scene is so uncomfortable to me because it's just wet from oil mud. It's gotta be the most nasty texture
also,
ever.
The guys that are just standing in the background, just watching it happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm
yeah.
just
I know. Yeah.
It just gives me just the creepy.
That's
crawlies.
that's probably
Yeah,
the most Western that movie gets is all the people are just watching them bury each other in mud.
And then the funniest cut of the whole movie is it cuts to Eli's dad sitting there eating dinner, and it just cuts to him covered in mud at the end of the table going, what is his dad's name again? I can't remember. I got it. Oh, Abel. You are a stupid man, Abel. And then
Oh yeah, that's
rushes
right.
the table,
Yeah.
tackles him, and it's just it was Paul. Paul let him here. Yeah. He let him come, and he let him. I can't believe that Paul Dano had 3 days to prepare for Eli. Because
Is that real?
Yeah.
they had someone else cast as Eli, and he was always Paul. But then I can't remember what it was. They decided not to go. They decided to.
It was something he just did Paul so well
or something,
or the other guy wasn't working out because I was looking at pictures of the other guy. He looks like he could do that part.
Mm-hmm.
It came down to
maybe he just didn't have the intensity.
Yeah, and then whereas Daniel Day-Lewis had 2 years to prep for Daniel Plainview, Paul Dano had 2 days to prep for Eli, and it makes sense they're twins or brothers at least or whatever, and they don't share any scenes because you have one scene of Paul.
Well, that's why I thought it was on purpose that they casted him, is to throw us off and to make us think that he was just messing with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm that's so. I love making movies and how that small little that small what was seen as a screw up to the people that were making it.
Basically,
to me, it seems like a brilliant choice. God, that's awesome. That's awesome.
The Paul scene is great too because there's a great line I've always loved is if I go up there and I find you've been lying to me, I will find you, and I'm going to take more than my money back. It's just this whole.
Jared likes these violent scenes.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Violence is awesome.
Or Jared's a psychopath.
I mean.
Well, lest we not forget, we were filming something for Christmas, and we were having someone in the scene reenact yelling at their kid. An adult man.
Yeah.
Every single person at that shoot is getting triggered by
crying.
Child
we're looking around the corner and they're crying and
and I'm laughing. They're all going and I'm behind the camera just going funny. Because the line that got me was "Christmas is over." Christmas is over. Everyone's, and it's not saying I don't have
crashed, smashed.
Yeah, Christmas is over. It doesn't mean that I don't have. Everyone has childhood trauma. It just everyone has different types of things that upset them. But then for me, it's something like that just makes me laugh. Now, if my parent yelled at me like that, it's good. Of course, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't laugh. But there's just something about that made me laugh. I laugh at weird stuff.
This is such like a...
I'm not the Joker, by the way. I'm not laughing and handing you a card that says I have a condition called laughinitis or whatever.
Laughinitis.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
This is such a weird veer into left territory, but do any of you know the streamer Germa985?
Nope.
He has this thing where whenever he plays like a car game and he gets into a crash, he cannot stop laughing. Like anytime he sees a car crash, he cannot stop laughing. So I get laughing at weird, unconventional funnies, you know. Yeah.
I have a coworker where when she gets stressed, she starts giggling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
I know
bet
a couple
people
like
it's
that.
like super. It's customer
giggle
service
a lot
job.
throughout this movie.
Super long line. She's by herself and she's like laughing. And
yeah.
And they had to take 5 or something. I wasn't there, but they were like, "Yeah, I was starting to laugh because that's what happens when I get super stressed." I go, "Yeah, just people deal with stuff differently." But
Sure.
I tend to just laugh at these scenes in here, like him hitting him with the bowling pin makes me like,
Oh yeah,
hilarious. He hits him again, and then one more, and then
yeah.
Didn't he throw one at him
I
too?
lolled when I saw that.
what did you say, Jake?
Didn't he throw one at him too?
No, he's throwing him first,
does,
and then he
yeah.
gets him on
Okay.
the head
Yeah.
once, twice, 3 times. Then he's making that face and sits down. He gets it always bugs me because he gets his foot like a little bit in the blood and like stirs it around.
He does.
And then his butler comes out and Corey, Mr. Daniel, sir, and then I finished. And then black title, just yeah.
There was blood.
Yeah, I'd put it in the conversation for, and I'm not the only one, best movie endings of all time, just
It is
easily.
really, really
and it's not just one moment; it's 10 minutes of build up to that moment from 2.5 hours of build up to that scene. And speaking of that music, I know that's a classical piece, but Johnny Greenwood's music is so good.
Yeah.
Everyone said that, but what the thing that sucks is he used music from a previous project. I think just during the fire scene. That's a piece called Convergence, and it's from Body Song.
Oh, is it really? I didn't realize
Yep.
that.
And then he has a couple classical pieces thrown in, but everything else is a composition by him using instruments that were available at the time.
Huh.
And because he used those and the Body Song track, he was deemed ineligible for the Oscar.
That's the reason.
That's
That's stupid.
He used too much existing material, which is dumb. It should be based off of what you have. It's like you should submit, like, here's what I have written. And it should be based off of that. Now, I get they do it so it's like, oh, you compose one 5-minute thing and you get nominated. But at the same time, it's like, it's more than half the movie.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Is it Antonio Sanchez did Birdman's drums?
Yep.
Same thing where a chunk of the movie is like classical music and a couple other cues that like are used in there, and it was considered. They deemed his drum tracks to be ineligible for the Oscar then because of that, which is stupid because it's
They're
so
great.
good.
Yeah.
So weird.
It's just that there's some wonky rules. I mean, look at the Lego Movie not being nominated because there's too much live action. That one's a little different.
Yeah,
But that's still like it's one of those things like it has to be like 75%. It has to be like 75% animated. It's still close, and it's like it probably didn't pass that by like a couple percent.
So what is it,
But
74?
then, but that's 2014 when the movie came out. This past year, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which is a really good movie. That's live action with a bunch of stop motion. They had to like send in a bunch of stuff to prove how much animation is in it. But there's it's filmed in live action with stop motion, but there's like the filmmakers in it too.
Interesting.
It's like, how is this eligible, but the Lego Movie isn't? And I get, almost a decade has passed and the Lego Movie has caused a big uproar, but the rules of all that are so weird. Yeah. And it brings me back to Greenwood's score, and all of the scores I've heard from him are great. His Phantom Thread score is one of my favorite scores of all time as well. Just
the master score.
Master score is good. Yeah, he's big surprise. Johnny Greenwood makes good music.
Kind of a Radiohead.
I was waiting for him to make a dumb joke.
I couldn't find a good way to do it. I just had to say
He's
it.
always 15 steps ahead. That's a good one.
That is a good one. That actually is a good one.
Yeah, so, but that, what is the name of the the track and hear the dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah, that's like the main theme
What is it
of
called?
the film.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
That's a great
but it feels so industrial and like, you know, like really of that time too, which is so cool.
I watched a video by there's a history YouTuber. I think it's the Cynical Historian. And he
Oh, I know that,
he
actually,
just like literally like a month ago put out a There Will Be Blood video. Like
okay.
I was like, oh, that's perfect timing. And I'm watching this because he was talking about like where it comes from and the time period it's set in. And one of the things he mentioned was how this music, this like he says this like sinister but upbeat music kicks in when all that's happening are like people like talking to each other, you know, inaudibly talking to each other and like things. And then he says something like, whenever, because it's a very anti-capitalist movie.
Yeah.
Whenever capitalism is in like big full swing, that's when the music kicks in like that. That's like the action sequence of the movie is when these deals have gone down and things are moving
makes so
and
much sense,
progressing
actually.
like that. And I go, I never thought about it that way.
Brilliant.
And I've seen this movie multiple
You're
times.
right.
It's 15, 16, 17, whatever, and years old now. And now I'm just, I hear him say that once. I go,
I didn't think about
yeah.
that.
That's brilliant.
It's like that's just kind of how that functions.
Because, yeah, when he's, like, standing on the derrick steps, like, blessing the well for the first time, that's when it starts picking up, like, randomly for no reason. And
Or when the guys are getting off the train to start building the derrick, that's the dun 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 dun. dun 'cause
Oh, my gosh, that makes so much
Yeah,
more
we-
sense. That's cool.
So I looked it up on Spotify just because I thought it might be apparent what you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's not apparent based on these titles.
Let me see. Yeah, hand me your phone. I think
But
I'll recognize
Look
it.
at the freaking badass cover art. for
Oh, yeah,
that
the
album.
cover
Oh, yeah.
art's great.
I think it is Future Markets.
It is Future Markets.
I knew once I saw the name, I'd be like, oh, yep, it's Future Markets.
Yeah. Good stuff.
It really is. And he was talking in that video too about like the time period, and I don't. I should have written it down, but there's like an oil scandal in the early
Teapot Dome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Teapot Dome, and you elaborate on it if you know any more.
I know very little. I've read Oil, which is the book that
Upton Sinclair.
Yeah, this is based. It's not like
It's like inspired by.
yes, that's much more accurate because like there's a lot of character similarities between a lot of the characters in the movie and the book, but at the end of the day, they're completely different animals. Yeah, the Teapot Dome scandal was just like the first time, or at least to my understanding, like the first time in politics that something like a natural resource or like a fuel source, a big economy mover,
And there was an
like,
indictment
messed
too.
up over it. Yeah,
Like
there were
they got caught
senators-
and got in trouble.
yeah, senators got like let go from their position, all that stuff, because it was basically people trying to monopolize the oil market before it was even a thing. So yeah, that's mainly what There Will Be Blood is based off of. And, effectively at the end of the movie, it looks like he's got a pretty firm grip on Southern California's oil industry. So, yeah.
It's hard to imagine. This is completely aside from the movie. It's hard to imagine a time frame in which there were like individuals that owned like giant stretches of the California coast, and there was just nothing there.
Definitely.
Like
yeah.
they had that scene where he's going to
Yeah.
go over Bandy's stuff, and then I'm like, oh my god, like intellectually you know it, but then when you see a visual representation of it, it's just like, wow.
It's so much like.
Are you talking when they go swimming?
Well, there's
Well,
that.
like
Like when they
Legos.
ride up to it, and then when they go swimming, that's a part
Like
of
That great
survey,
shot on the beach
yeah.
where
Such a good
they're both sitting there like that, and then I think that's when he
also
gets up
where-
while Henry's sitting there.
That's
right?
also where he catches Henry
Yep.
in a lie,
Yep.
and he doesn't tell him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the next scene is that's another thing. Like we see him shoot him, but we don't see like a bunch of gore.
no,
Because he
it's
shoots
fine.
him and that's it.
I honestly think, apart from what you said about them pushing for an R, it would just be the intensity of this. And like we have said many times on this podcast before, it's what's implied and not necessarily what's shown.
Yeah, that's also this when he has the gun to his head and he's like, "What does it tell me who you are?" I'm your friend Daniel, and you like feel bad for him. It's
Yeah.
like I just wanted. I what did he say? I just wanted to.
Didn't he have a brother, and the
His
brother
brother-
died?
yeah.
His brother did.
And so
die.
so Henry like took his journal and like memorized
Yeah.
and like because he wanted to like have a family or someone.
Mhm.
And it's like you feel bad for him, and of course he's gonna shoot him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's Kevin J. O'Connor, who I know him from The Mummy. If you've seen the Mummy,
Oh,
Which one?
he's
Which one?
the good one with Brendan Fraser.
So the first one.
Yeah,
It's been a while since I've seen it. But
he's Benny,
I thought you were
the
about
one
to
who's
tell
on the
me.
wrong side of the river. I think that's him. Actually, I'm gonna fact check that.
Oh, you're right. No, he's the one that
Yep,
gets
he's Benny.
the little funny scarabs going through his body.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's also in The Master.
Is he?
He's Bill White.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah, I've seen him in a couple things. I mean, look at this face. Look at that stash.
It's a very period accurate face. It does bring up a certain point to casting. Is like it's weird to say, but it's like bone structures are just kind of different these days. So you gotta be real selective about the kind of faces you pick in that. And they look genuinely of the soil in this. So
That's a good way to put it. Of the soil. Yeah. They're real dirty.
real dirty. A lot of dirty feet. Yeah. So
Yeah, it
Bear
literally
that in
feels like
mind.
they went out, rolled around the dirt for about a couple hours.
Really?
And then made a movie.
looks like they're roughed up by time, man. So good on you, not Daniel Day-Lewis.
Kevin J. O'Connor.
Not Kevin J. O'Connor. Who's a casting
Director?
Oh, casting director.
Good job to whoever may have casted this film.
Cassandra. Oh boy.
Kulu Kundis? That's a
We are
crazy
really
name.
sorry if you're for some reason
Yeah,
listening to
sorry.
us. Just botching your name. Casting again should be an Oscar category.
I agree.
It's very important, and it's very difficult, and it's very noticeable when it's not done well,
Yes.
and it's very noticeable when it's done very well.
Yes.
So going back to Paul Dano, the first domino in the Paul Dano should have like 10 Oscar nominations by now.
So the Dano Domino?
The Dano Domino.
Oh, I
The
thought of
Danomino.
I thought of another one where he gets beat up in The Fablemans, except it's emotionally.
Another movie he should have been nominated for.
What I'm saying is the best movie of that year.
And I love Judd Hirsch. He has, 3 scenes and he's great. Paul Dano is like the emotional center of that movie and has some of the best moments, and he's still... Why are we not nominating him? Because, There Will Be Blood, he's great. Prisoners, he's great. Fablemans,
I could
he's
see
great.
why they wouldn't nominate him for Prisoners.
Why?
He doesn't have that many lines.
Most of his acting is through an eye hole.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Lines have nothing to do with it.
I mean, it
Also-
tends to-
Holly Hunter doesn't... I don't think says a word in the piano in one.
I've never seen that.
I don't care.
Wait, isn't that by the same person that the piano? Isn't that by the same person that made Power of the
Ropeback
Dog?
Mountain. Ropeback Mountain, yeah.
Ropeback- okay.
You ever seen
So
Power of
that-
the Dog? Ropeback Mountain is what I call it. Jake and I are not big fans of it, so we like to make
thought
fun
it was
of it.
okay.
It's not-
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
But Paul Dano, getting back on topic, is so good, and even in movies where it's not necessarily a stand-up performance, he's just solid. He's kind of like a Sam Rockwell. He's just always good. Like Jake has said, at least Sam Rockwell has fun in some of these bad movies he's in.
Besides Charlie's Angels.
Yeah. We would say
Guardians of
Cowboys and Aliens,
Not
but
Guardians
he's
of the Galaxy.
he's not fun in that. He's just kind of there.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I watched Cowboys and Aliens in the theaters.
Me too.
Yeah.
Too.
No,
Me
you see-
too.
Oh wow. Okay.
I hated it.
Yeah, me too.
I loved it.
You know what I see? I see 4 suckers who gave Jon Favreau money.
I love John.
I've given John Favreau so much
I-
money.
I
What are you
was- I've
talking
given that
about?
man
Chef.
So much.
I actually like
I
Chef
like Chef.
quite a
Good.
bit. That food looks good.
Chef.
I want to make some money Cubanos so bad.
Oh. But yeah, and then this movie, the demon scene and the baptism scene, the end scene, it's all, there's the loud parts of the performance, but there's also this weird, because he's also my cousin has said this, these are the 2 most influential, powerful people of the time, religious ministers and oilmen, and that's why they clash so much, and he's just got this weird, uncomfortable aura about him. Whenever he's just standing there, like the blessing scene where Daniel does it without him, he's just standing there like he's like barely moving. It's the same kind of the same pose as when he's covered in mud, but he's just kind of standing there. And then there's the shot of like he finishes and everyone leaves, the crowd disperses, and he just kind of stands there like it's like he's holding it in. He's angry, but he's just kind of okay.
He's oh god.
Did you ever catch that, like, after the drill falls down and hits the guy, that it immediately cuts to him? I always thought for years that was because he, like, loosened up the drill bit and, like, tampered with it.
Ooh.
I think that's what some people have theorized, which I think that's a fair assessment.
I have no actual evidence for that, but
it's also like, because they're working on it day and night, they're in shifts. How would he know how to do that, and also when would he have done that? But I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like it happens, and he's just saying, "See, this is what happened."
I could see that too. Yeah. Like, you called upon God this time. Well, he doesn't have that voice in this movie. It's more of a the Riddler one, isn't it?
It really is. He's kind of meek, but not really.
Not quite. Yeah.
I thought they had said another reason why they did go with him for Eli. I'm just remembering is like he was not getting intimidated by Daniel Day-Lewis, because imagine that having to work with Daniel Plainview, because apparently he did not break character, and or hardly did. Like, that is who he is 24/7 during filming. And so, like, imagine
he just went around drinking everyone's milkshakes.
Imagine being 22 or 23 years old and you're faced with acting opposite one of the great actors of all time, and you're not intimidated. Like, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he
I was gonna say I got intimidated just watching the movie.
Yeah, honestly.
No kidding. Yeah, standing across from that's got to be nuts. Like,
I would be shaking.
I would definitely be shaking.
Yeah. Oh, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my props. It's nothing extravagant. I have a Blu-ray, which there's a certain reason why I didn't buy the Blu-ray for years. You told me not to, like 10 years ago.
I did.
I
forget why.
I think it was, and I don't even like this is a newer release too, but it was like I remember we were making the case for like Criterion should pick it up because it doesn't have a good Blu-ray release. You said that for years.
Oh yeah, which is semi-true. I mean, it just is pretty like bare on features and stuff
this
like
one
that.
I think they have the same features as the other thing, but like I bought this recently because I realized I can't watch it with my other. So I have right here a DVD copy. That's like, it's a paper case. It's a collector's edition thing, and it's got the cool cover, and you open it up and it's got like a book look, and it even has the full speech at the beginning.
That's great.
Like it's so cool.
Oh my god, that's really well done.
But the disc freezes during the movie. It's like I was watching it with my friend David back in college. It was probably the third or fourth time I'd seen it. I was showing him, and right around the baptism scene, I think it was right before, it froze. So we had to find other means of finishing the movie.
Huh.
I wonder what that means.
So we have like an hour left. So we're mostly through this movie, and it froze. I'm like, and I had not put the disc in yet, because, again, the previous times it was not my copy. And it's one of those, like, if it's one thing that makes my heart drop and just get really upset, it's when a disc freezes, and I just kind of, no. Because when it happens,
it's so weird.
You think it's nothing, but then you're like, oh no.
I don't think digital copies do that.
I mean, while they're accessible to you till they yank them.
Well, that's yeah. So
They might not skip, but you also have no control over them.
Yeah.
So they should just buy another one.
I mean, I heard somewhere this week, and I'm sure this is old news, that for a long time Disney was going to push just like everything to Disney Plus, and everything they were making wasn't going to get put on a physical media.
Makes sense.
And then it was like, crap, we're losing hand over fist money not releasing physical media. So they started making Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 Blu-rays and this.
And I'm sure they're still losing money probably on manufacturing costs for those.
I don't know about that, but
I bet
They're still losing money on Disney Plus for sure.
Oh yeah, no, they're losing. Disney's
But
losing money everywhere.
Disney can lose as much money as they want and still have most of the world.
I could give us 2 craps for how much money Disney.
It's kind of funny. Their big 100-year celebration last year was like one of their worst financial outputs ever, or in the last however many
We're just getting
decades.
tired of the mouse.
I don't know that that's true so much as they oversaturated it.
Yeah, it's partially of that.
Well, I guess that's the same thing.
I was about to, I was like, that is the same thing.
Anyway, back to David Dare. Anything else about There Will Be Blood?
I feel like I had more.
I like the movie.
That's what I was gonna say. I was
like the
gonna.
movie too?
Well, no. My own personal experience with it is, like I said, when all my friends watched it in 2007, 2008, I watched it and I was like, oh, this is going to be really great. I watched it and I didn't like it. And then 10 years passed and I never watched it again. I saw it on television. I was like, why would I want to spend 4 hours of my life watching that on television? It was always the thing that I would say when it was on, like, TNT, I think is what it's on.
That checks out. It's the sounds like a TNT movie.
I didn't get it at all. I guess this time I definitely... I don't know if it's just because... For me, this is an example of why it's great to rewatch movies and to leave space between when you do. Because I would say that my opinion of it is 180'd.
Oh, wow, okay.
And again, when you first saw it, you were college age.
Yeah.
Now mid-30s, it's like, okay, a lot has changed in the last decade plus.
Mm-hmm.
You're a different person. And also, as we've mentioned, when people in that era of your life are really into something, or it's talked about, it's everywhere, you tend to not like it because you're tired of it.
This is a different thing, though, because Drew really loved it. And usually when Drew loves a thing, I love a thing.
That is weird. And was it this
I don't know why I didn't like it. Like, I can't remember why.
I can easily see this being like, I mean, if you don't know what you're getting into, like
Maybe.
we kind of talked about this at the beginning. Like, you got to be in the right mood to watch this. Like, if I don't feel like I want to go watch Mamma Mia one night, but instead I put this on, my mind's gonna be like, I don't want to see this. Like, what the heck is going on? Like, you get to.
Why do I want to sit here for 3 hours?
When
They don't ever dance.
When does Daniel sing Super Trooper? Super Trooper. No. That the do while the fire's blazing up.
Yeah.
Give me that cut. Give me that cut where the Mamma Mia, the ABBA music is playing over There Will Be Blood.
I would watch that. I would totally watch that.
Give me the cut where the oil man slides down the oil derrick on the pole.
Oh man.
Is there anything else
I
constructive?
was thinking there's a weird thing when you have people that you line up opinions with. There's this weird sense of like I can't even think of a good word, because you hear they love it, so then you watch it and you don't like it and you like jump on the fact like, oh, I got a different opinion. Like you kind of jump on that. But then there's also the half of it of, why does everyone love this? I don't get it. I fall into that a lot because I'll consume media that everyone talks up and then I don't understand it or experience it the same way. So it's like, I want to know why everyone loves this, because I didn't get anything out of it. What am I missing something? And it frustrates me because it's like, why can like this big collective people claim this is good, but then what's wrong with me?
Just to experience
Is
it.
it like Cache one of those ones?
Cache is one where like everyone loves Cache.
I also thought of Turning Red.
No, that's different.
That's a little. That's more. We're just
Perspective.
not the person
Yep.
that's made for.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying.
An
though.
example, and if he's listening, he'll know. There's one of the biggest like rap albums,
He's not
hip
talking about
hop
you this
albums.
time.
Yeah, one of the biggest hip hop albums like ever is what is the Nas album called? Illmatic.
Yes, it is.
Everyone talks so highly of it and
Mm-hmm.
loves it, and I listened to it on recommendation from a friend, and I didn't really like it that much.
Fair.
And it should have just been that. But I think I might have frustrated him because I kept repeating, because I repeat myself all the time. But I want to know why this is so revered. Why do people love this? Because I don't have an emotional reaction at all. I don't hate it. I don't think it's bad. I don't have the know-how to make any kind of critical reaction. I don't have that know-how, so all I'm gonna say is I just don't get anything out of it.
I was gonna say, you've also said that music is a very different, more emotional thing to you than movies.
It's a lot more reactionary because
Yeah.
movies you can at least like be because unless I was like a theory nut that has like a master's in music, something where I could actually like break something down, but I don't. So all I can do is react to it, and I didn't react to it. So that's one of those like I'm not gonna ever call it bad. I don't have that. I don't have the know-how to say that. It's more of a why do people love this? I legitimately want to know.
I can give you a very specific answer as to why Illmatic is so beloved.
Okay.
Because at the time that it's made, it's like, what, 1996, 97?
4, I think.
4? Wow,
I think it's
even
the
more
year of
though.
my birth.
There we go. So it's coming out right when hip hop's getting big. At this point, it is still largely a East Coast West Coast thing. Illmatic is probably one of the records that set off the actual like conflict element of it because he was actually doing well. Like he had songs with topics about his life that was about the projects and about all that stuff, which at the time people weren't really making conceptual albums in hip hop. So people were like, "Oh, that's really cool that you did that." It's basically poetry but in a rap album. So that's why it's liked so much.
Gotcha. It was just one of those like
It's
that's
all-
the historical perspective.
I also think it's okay. I'm one of the people that thinks that Illmatic is just fine. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it's like a film version of it. Maybe this is a way more drastic comparison. Would be like when the jazz singer like gets speech.
Well,
in terms of a new element of
okay.
the art.
I was gonna say
That's what
that
I'm
has
saying.
different problems.
Yes.
This is like
Yes.
the third time
Not
we
a-
brought up
not
the
a
jazz
great
singer
not a
in my
great
top 10.
example,
This is
yeah.
the third time we brought
Not
up the
a
jazz
great
singer.
example.
I think, or the second time. But it was like,
But
just keeps coming
a
up.
jump is what people saw with that.
Gotcha.
That's where they see.
yeah, and the only other thing I wanted to say was I think this is PTA's best movie. Probably a lot of people do. There are different opinions on it because he's one of those. He's never made a bad movie, and they're all pretty good to great.
I've heard Licorice Pizza is.
It's good. It's good. Some people like it more than others. It's got a lot more. It's a lot more divisive. Sorry, divisive, as you say.
Divisive.
I
Interesting.
Divisive.
I've never. Oh, I have.
People
heard
have
stuff
say
like
that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they're
I
wrong.
mean,
but
you say the way you pronounce the word is divisive. Anyway, Jared, keep going.
But like, if your weakest movie is your debut, which is Hard 8, and it's still a good movie, like it's pretty good.
Good track record.
So I know some people say Boogie Nights.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I've heard even some say The Master or Phantom Thread, which I love Phantom Thread. The Phantom Thread is my second favorite.
Yeah.
I think Phantom Thread is my favorite.
I need to see it.
And I would probably say that this is the best of the ones that I've seen. I haven't seen
Yeah,
them all.
we actually talked about this movie on this
did?
podcast
Yeah, this
before,
was my-
like
this
2
was
years
my
ago.
favorite.
So this was
PTA.
the way it worked was we had to pick PTA favorites back when we were doing 3 and 1, which,
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
we should have done.
I'm glad we.
He
And we
picked
didn't
There Will Be
really
Blood,
watch 'em.
and he picked Phantom Thread. Those are my top 2. So I was like, okay. But then I got to talk about Punch Drunk Love, and I just rewatched it again. I was like, oh, I love this too. I love
Yeah.
all 3. I think are in my top movie, not top 10, of course. This is the only PT in my top 10, but the other 2 are also up there. So
Yeah.
I do want to add, also having rewatched this just now, I'm very upset at myself for not including this in my top 10.
I'm not.
I don't think he would have let you.
I'd be like, you got the last one. This is mine. This has been in my top
That's
10
fair.
probably since I watched it.
Yeah. I mean, it should have been in my top 10. I don't know. I can't think of what I'd bump out right now, but
Well, that's why top 10s are hard.
I will say all the time, my favorite movie is always changing.
It is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Man.
We have evidence. He has a list of his top 10
from like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then this
Gosh, I
one,
almost
which they
said
only
2
had
years
like
ago.
5
What is
of them were the
time
same.
anymore?
It's not the same at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me whenever I watch early 2000s, it's just the same for other people for other decades. It takes you right back, that nostalgia.
does.
And even this one, it's not contemporary. It's the turn of the century. And it doesn't like feel attached to the 2000s
But some of the
when you watch the
filming
movie.
techniques are-
Even
Yeah.
then, like it's pretty timeless.
I was
But I
gonna
still,
say-
it made me feel like I did in high school when I watched it.
I think that PTA with some of the movies of his I don't like. We're not going to get into that right now. He's very good at making a timeless film.
It's something that looks like it's going to be a classic in a couple years. You know,
Yeah, or just like one of the other movies that we're going to talk or like Vendors we talked about
last week.
Just
2 weeks
real
ago.
great at setting a mood, and I think part of making a film timeless is being very adept at that ambient mood thing.
Yeah, and then last week when we talked about, well, the three of us, you weren't here, but we talked about Her, too. When I put it in, and instantly I got, like, whisked back to 2013 when I watched it. Well, 2014, technically, because it was, like, January.
But then the movie doesn't feel like it's... Well,
No.
that one maybe...
A little bit, because I think we said, like, this feels like a 2010s movie, but in all the best possible ways. It kind of... Because it's early in the decade, it kind of brought in, like, oh, yeah, this is how this decade feels. But this one just, it's like, you're going to have ones that are that, but it's at the top of the list. Because it's like, this is one of the best examples. Yeah, and then watching There Will Be Blood, it's like, I remember sitting in this same room, in about this same spot, 13 years ago, watching this for the first time, and feeling a certain way.
His basement hasn't changed, I guess.
The TV and the couch were different.
You mean, like, physically different, or were they in the same spot?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
just in a
it's-
different
It was
spot?
different. Well, it was different furniture and a different TV, but it's like the same. It's the same thing. I watched it in this room.
Does that make you sad about your life?
I don't want to talk about it. But I remember I double featured this with Lost in Translation
Oh, God.
for the first time.
Are you
Same
just,
night.
like, aiming to be depressed?
I was 17 and my cousin let me borrow them, so I watched. It was the summer. I didn't have a job yet, so I just sat down and I watched them both back to back. Then that was like had to be the same month as another movie coming up on the list. Where that was the summer where I started watching movies.
Your origin story?
This is Jared's origin
Basically,
story.
Yeah.
Like that's when it started because it's like, oh, my cousin has all these
isn't
movies.
a part of your origin story?
No, I've actually only seen 2 of them.
You're missing out, man.
You haven't seen the third one?
That's the one I've seen.
Oh. So, what...
I've seen. I was dragged to the theater to see Dark of the Moon.
Oh, okay.
I was mowing the lawn, and 2 buddies come up in their car. You want to go see Dark of the Moon? I haven't seen the first 2. Well, get in. We'll tell you what happens on the way. And then
They
the other
say
one
that like
Bumblebee.
they say that like the first 2
I know.
have any
Oh,
relevance.
they didn't explain any of it. So I'm watching this movie like, I have no idea what's happening, and I don't think that matters.
Yeah. Probably not. Probably not.
But yes, this watching this, it just took me back to that moment of like, because Lost in Translation was in my top 10 for a long time. It's not anymore, but
I was
still
gonna say,
hold
I'm
it.
still, with the way you talk about it, I'm still kind of shocked it's not.
I still love it and hold it dear. It's just when was it? A couple years ago, just when I kind of reshaped this top 10, it was like, I don't think it's in here anymore.
So if we were to go back and redo our top 10s and Dickey wanted to have There Will Be Blood in it, would you have let him
No,
to put in Lost in Translation?
no, mine.
We're not on a share,
yeah,
apparently.
you
Yeah.
couldn't do that. With this guy?
No, he wouldn't want to share. Dickey would probably be fine with it.
Before last thing, I swear it's quick. Don't forget when I wasn't in the class with you after it, but I went to the another class that week, and you know who was sitting by me because he was in our class too, and he has his phone out and he's watching the bowling scene going.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. He was watching it just over and over,
Yeah,
laughing at it. I
just
go, I remember
laughing at
doing
the
that
bowling
when I was
scene.
17.
Yeah.
But it was so funny.
Like a psychopath,
You
just
remember that
like
guy?
watching it.
He was a
yeah.
nice guy. It
have a
was
lot
just
of
funny. He's
questions
just
about
sitting
that.
before this other class, like re-watching this with audio too. He doesn't have like headphones or
Headphones?
anything.
Yeah, no
He's
headphones.
watching it with the audio, so you're hearing all the and I'm just sitting there going, I can't believe. Okay, I'm happy he found something he likes now, and he's finding joy in watching.
Picture yourself. It's October of 2014. you now have YouTube everywhere, but headphones,
No,
you still have to plug them in. But yeah, There Will Be Blood is a good movie.
Yes, it is.
I wish I could be more complex than that.
Well, if you liked what you heard here, in our amazing episode on There Will Be Blood, and you want to hear more Jared's giggling over there before he lets me give a spiel, where can they follow us?
So you're going to. I'm
Okay.
going to have Maggie read this.
Yeah.
So make sure you say that as X. Make sure you reference that as that, and then you don't say that.
I hope
one.
he doesn't
so
cut
try
this.
It. So,
I'm gonna read exactly what he wrote.
No,
Do it!
Do it.
Do it!
Okay. Book. Which is F book.
Jake wrote this, by the way.
Oh, Jake.
That is not true.
Okay.
That's your
Wait, let me see
handwriting.
it.
Twilter.
That's your handwriting,
Oh,
That's-
that is my hand.
Oh, that is you? Okay. Insta, TikTok.
which it's funny.
Oh, I thought that says.
Don't
I
say
thought that said
word.
Grundy. I don't know what that is.
Grundy from
yeah.
the DC universe. Solomon Grundy.
And then for the podcast, you can get Apple, Spotify, Stitcher.
It
What-
doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, that doesn't exist. Google and YouTube.
Did it
Yeah.
still exist when I wrote it?
Yeah, it's like
Did
a
I do it
recent
well?
thing. Yeah. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment and ring our bell. And hey, check out our groovy website.
Absolutely. So yeah, stay tuned for next week. We're on Jared's 5th favorite movie of all time. Before we talk about it, you should go watch. Jared, what should they watch? What is your
Next week is Wings of Desire.
All right, go watch that and then be right back. We'll see you guys next time.